serious. Had been more serious than previous times, like when they bought a Ouija board. Let me know if you guys have experimented with stuff like that. Like, have you used a Ouija board before? Or those candles that could summon the dead, neither of which did anything. He was always so willing to sell to the junior Ghostbusters, as he liked to call them. But this time he seemed as will see. We will see. Again, I didn't read the stories beforehand, so I can't tell you. Okay, let's continue. Sorry, Andy said as he bolted to his phone. He turned it off and rejoined them. Michael shot him a dirty look, but continued, or at least tried to. He uttered a few more words until his front door suddenly opened. Michael and Andy gasped while Tommy let out a scream. Michael was sure, just for a second, that some horrid monster would come through, perhaps a shadow creature or even a witch. Mom says you little shits are being too noisy, said the shape of his older sister, leaning on the doorframe. Says I can dump a bucket of water on you if you keep it up. She was only paying half attention to the boys when she entered, but when she saw the three boys in a circle with an ugly-looking book, her face lit up. What are you dorks doing? Playing ghost hunter again? She laughed. Just leave it, Amber. Tell Mom we'll be quiet, but don't bug us. Whatever, loser. You guys aren't doing it right. You get that book from that same creepy guy. You know he tried to sell my friend Tamara a rock. Had the spirit of a great warrior or something stupid like that. She sneered at them. You guys will his friend grabbing onto his hand. He pulled back, drove his feet downward, and marched back as though he were playing tug of war in gym class. For a second, it seemed like they were winning this nightmarish game. That was until a whooshing noise came from the broken opening. What appeared was a giant white disc with a black center that expanded and contracted. It looked at them, and Michael could make it out. Suspicion in his glance. Could make out suspicion in its glance. Confusing over what was taking so long. The eye narrowed on Michael, and he was sure his heart would stop simply by the creature's gaze. His whole body started sweating and his hands started to slip. Don't let go, Andy bellowed, but it was too late. Michael fell backwards with a thumb and heard the final screams of his friend. Michael, okay, Andy screamed as the monster claimed his prize, dragging him into the darkness under the bed. One final Michael was the last thing he heard. He sat there for a second, still staring at the grotesque eyeball. Now satisfied with its victory, the eye widened, then started to move away. Michael had no time to wonder about this as those long veins from the wall started slowly advancing onto him. He looked at the book, now glowing brighter than ever, casting a red glow all over the room. He got to his feet, grabbed it, and ran into the bathroom connected to his room. The book caused it. It can fix it, he told himself, his voice shaky and uncertain. He turned through the pages, which were even more saturated to the point they left a warm, wet imprint on his hand. Quickly he found the spell he had used. To his surprise, more wording had appeared on the page, a language he could actually read. Warning to those who use this ritual: binding to an elder god comes at a great risk with very little reward. Obviously, depending on which one accepts, one could find their body for a vessel for its will transported to its realm as its plaything, suffer permanent enslavement of the soul to madness or any other horrible atrocity that is not yet discovered. Due to this, it is heavily discouraged to participate in such a ritual. He looked at the book. The slowness with which the warning had appeared almost seemed to mock him, as though it was setting him up for failure right from the beginning. He shook the book, banging it on the table, wanting to rip its pages and curse it, yet deep down it was his decision to use it. His excitement that caused him to rush through it to impress his friends with some expensive book. Now his only hope was the book that had caused it. He turned each page, hoping against all odds that it would have a solution, perhaps a get rid of an evil god and return your lost friend's spell, but no such luck. The best spell he could find his friends and family back. He would tell him about all the bad things the book had caused and how it was his fault. He took a deep breath and started chanting the magical formula. It was similar to the previous spell. The words were hard to speak at first, but he found himself weaving a coherent pattern and rhyme. Halfway through the guttural speech, something slimy touched the back of his leg. He looked down to see a tentacle protruding from the door, grabbing at his ankle. He tried to pull away, but the strength of the creature's arm was too much. He hung onto the bedroom counter with all of his strength as a second suction gripped his other ankle and pulled. He found himself now parallel to the floor. He screamed as the muscles in his biceps started to stretch. His eyes darted to the book. It was his last chance. He read the words as best as he could, focusing all his strength, trying to pronounce it all the time. The monster pulled and pulled. His voice started to stretch along with his body. As he reached the final words of the page, he screamed them in a crescendo of anger. All at once his body flopped onto the ground, not the hard tile floor of a bathroom, instead a mix of grass and dirt softened his fall. His ankles were also free from any gripping strength. Only the suction marks of the beast's arms remained. Breathing heavily, he looked around. The sky was bright with the sun. There were the trees, bright green trees in the distance, that seemed to wave at him as a gentle breeze caressed his chin. The book had not come with him, something he was thankful for. He laughed. He couldn't stop himself. He felt joy with each holler. He laughed till tears started rolling down his cheek. Then the laughter started to die down, but the tears remained. Soon he found himself curled over, crying. He closed his eyes, hoping that Tommy, Andy, hell, even Amber would come through those trees, but he knew that they wouldn't. He had to get up and find out his way of wherever he was. He opened his eyes. He opened his eyes to find a shroud of darkness covering him. Had he fallen asleep? Was it now nighttime? No, that couldn't be it. He couldn't make out the moon, and the hard, dry grass he was resting on was now cold and black. Oh no! Yeah, he's still attached to the creature. Or the creature is still attached to him. Oh no, it didn't work. Okay. He got up and looked around. It wasn't total blackness, as a familiar red glow bathed him, while the moon wasn't there. There were 3 giant white discs stacked on top of each other, staring back at him. It didn't take long for the thing to find him. Maybe a god-like being just always knows where you are, especially if you bind to them. It was all he could do to sit there and watch as a long snake-like appendages filled his vision. That's such a sad story. I'm already filming for an hour, but let's see if we can find another one, like a quick one. Hold on. No, hold on. That story, I kind of wanted it to have a happy ending. I mean, it wouldn't be a creepy story, obviously, but it would have been nice to have a happy ending. Let me know what you guys think of it. It didn't start out creepy at all. I didn't think it was creepy, but the end of it, definitely gave me, goosebumps. Okay, let's see. This is 18 minutes. Let's see if we can find, a shorter one. Let's see. I was living alone at the time. My family was in Rhode Island, and with me being new to the area, I didn't have many friends to speak of. I moved into Shallow Reed with my backpack and 2 large suitcases. Boxes from home were on the way, but it couldn't be anything too big to not fit in the mail, and it had to be light enough for me to inside. We will get you dried off." I gently offered my hand, which she took after a moment. She wiped her shoes on my doormat. When she looked up, her eyes were wide, scanning around the apartment. Not that I felt embarrassed at the time, but my house wasn't really geared toward young children. I had a nice little cart of different alcohols and various collections strewn about that I used for decoration. I led her to the living room where the TV was. She took off her raincoat after I asked if I could leave it on the doorknob outside the apartment. Anyone who knew her would recognize it, and I doubted anyone in my building would steal a children's raincoat. I quickly rushed to the bathroom to grab her a towel. She was standing in the center of the living room, staring at the TV. I offered her the towel and grabbed my phone. "Here you are. I'm Derek. Can I get your name?" "I'm Joe. I'm calling Mom," she said in her small voice. I offered her my phone, which she quickly snatched up, dialing numbers. She turned her back to me as the dial tone rang. I stepped away to the kitchen to give her a moment. Sorry guys, there was noise outside and I kinda gotta hurry up because I have like 20 minutes left. Okay, so I might like read a little bit faster. Okay. A small marble island separated the two rooms, which allowed me to peek over at her while I got her a cup of water. After a few moments, she spoke in a different language, which I only knew enough about to know that it was some Asian language. She turned to me as I handed her the water. "What is this place?" she asked. "Shallow Reed Apartments. I'm Unit 5, first floor," I clarified. She spoke again to the person on the phone. She was quiet for a moment, looking around the room as if someone could be listening to her. She briefly made eye contact with me and flicked her gaze away. I felt a bit awkward standing there, despite knowing the fact that this little girl could do absolutely nothing to harm me. I was still a bit on edge. It was a few moments later before Joe handed me my phone back. "She'll be here soon," was all she said. To me, looking down at the floor, I looked at my phone, thinking if I should report this to the police or not. Yeah, her mother is on her way, but why was she missing in the first place? "How come you knocked on my door and not Unit 1? Sorry, how come you knocked on my door and not Unit 1? Sorry, the first door in the hall. Your carpet fishy about that. I could feel the blood draining from my face. I quickly lowered the TV volume, looking behind me to make sure no one was there. The bathroom light, like he should have just gone outside with her and not let her in. The bathroom light was still on, but the whispering had stopped. I turned back to the screen and they had fast-forwarded the clip. The same woman in my bathroom was there on the screen. I quickly dialed 911 and turned off the TV. I kept my eyes locked on the bathroom as I rushed to the front door. When I was about to reach for the handle, a heavy knock banged against the door. I froze in place, my finger hovering over the call button. From the bathroom, I heard the lady call, "That should be my brother. He's our ride home. Can you tell him we will be right out?" "Sure thing. Let me just turn off the oven," I responded. Panic coursed through me. I slowly locked the door. I even grabbed some mail to make an impromptu doorstop. As I shoved it underneath the door, the person knocked again. I jumped back and tiptoed to my bedroom. They pounded the door again. I held my breath as I passed the bathroom. Neither the girl nor the woman made a sound. I locked my door behind me and called 911. 911, what's your emergency? My house is being broken into. It's the same people from... I was interrupted by a sudden slamming. They were breaking down the front door. "They've made it into my home," I whispered. I stepped away from the door. "Sir, what's your location?" There was shouts from the men who busted the door down. They were smashing my stuff and God knows what else. I knew my door wouldn't hold long enough for the police to get here. I had to do something now. Without a second thought, I ran to the window in my room. I heard the woman cry. My doorknob twisted as she did. She was crying for help. She yelled that they would kill her. If I didn't help, they would kill her child. I opened the window and pushed the screen out of the frame. The walls shook as someone started to pound my bedroom door. I stepped out of the window, only to have a hand grab tightly onto my shirt collar. Someone was standing outside waiting. I dropped my phone as I was pushed to the ground. I could hear the 911 operator yelling through the phone as it dropped, breaking against the small rocks that lined my building. There were hands around my throat before I could even react. The person on top of me dropped all of his weight onto my hips, straddling me and keeping me pinned. I struggled in his grip. I didn't even have the time to panic. All I could do was react. I'll never forget the look in his eyes, the utter disregard for humanity. I can still see the smile stretched across his lips. I could see myself reflected in the black of his eyes. I tried to knock away his arms, trying to scratch at his face. My head was pounding and my vision was getting darker and darker. I couldn't hear him, but I could see him bending closer to my face. Spit hit my cheeks as he laughed just inches from me. I grabbed the ground under me and used the last of my strength to aim for those dark poles. The blood hit my cheek before his laughter turned into screaming. Air rushed into my lungs as the man clutched his eye, or what would have been left of it. Ew. There's a reason why I don't watch these kind of movies, you know. I could wiggle away from him as he dislodged the small rock from his eye socket. He pulled out more than the rock. I finally picked myself up and left the man behind me. I ran as fast as I possibly could and didn't look back. Okay, so he made it out. I ran across the street and started yelling at the top of my lungs for help. There were a few businesses, one of which was a pizza joint that still had its lights on. I ran to the door and yanked it open. I quickly found the lock for the glass door and turned it. The employees immediately started yelling at me, getting ready to defend themselves. I'm sure swapped the man's blood that got on me and took photos of everything. My apartment was an utter disaster. Whatever they couldn't take, they smashed. The police took me down to the station in order for me to write up a formal report. I told them about Joe and the woman who came to my door. Hours later, they gave me an update. They found a man fitting the description I gave them. He was missing his eye, and was dumped in a garbage bin 20 minutes from where I lived. Even after I spent a week in a hotel and another week at a coworker's place, there was no sign of the people who attacked me. The cops weren't any help either. Without anything to go off of, all they could do was wait. I asked the cops why they came after me, and they responded by asking me if I owned any firearms, which they would have known the answer to already, but I told them I didn't. They told me how the other homes had been suspected of breaking into all had something in common. The first family they attacked worked closely with the local church. Another home was just an apartment of college students. And the last home, the one that got footage of the woman from their security cameras, was a family who didn't have their citizenship in the States yet. It didn't take much to connect the dots that none of these people would have owned any guns or would have turned away a young child. We were all targeted as an easy mark. The police said they couldn't know how much the group knew about us until they were able to catch the culprits, but they knew enough about me because of the rainbow. I've since moved and taken some self-defense courses and even bought myself a handgun that I touch once a year to bring into range. I jump every time I hear a knock at the door, but I'll be ready for when they come to visit me again. At least that's how I felt before I came home today. Wait, what? At least that's how I know. That's how I felt when I came home today, and on my doorknob there was a red raincoat. Ooh, chills. Oh my god. Yeah, so those were the 2 stories for today, guys. Definitely let me know if you want me to read more, like maybe some of the like really